Americans showed far less appetite to buy new homes last month after the government stopped offering that home buyer tax credit. New home sales dropped a record 33% from April to May. Now, this took most experts by surprise because they were hoping for some sign of momentum, but obviously there was none to be found. Joe Krier, president of Krier Wealth Management, is here to discuss the good and bad numbers. Really, they really thought that in this economy people would buy homes after the incentive program ended?
They did, and the incentive program, the idea was to kind of prime the pump a little bit, and that's a lot how a lot of recessions end, is where the feds stimulate things a little bit, then people feel better and they just start doing things on their own.
But the problem here is that if you don't have cash to buy these homes and these deals, the banks aren't really lending as much as they used to, of course.
That's right, and the home buyer credit, there was a lot of ways that money was being used, so they kind of thought that letting that go away, it was going to bring a different set of buyers to the market, but as it turned out, everybody just bought a little bit early. So, the sales that occurred in March and April were perhaps a little higher than they would have been, leaving May to be just, a chasm, basically.
Any possibility that they, being the government, might institute another incentive program?
It's pretty tough, I mean, it's clear that the housing market isn't going to get kick-started without their help. And for those loans that are being made out there, 97% of them are backed by Fannie and Freddie and FHA. So they're out there helping any way they can. And I think at this point what they need to do is try to help get the banks healthy so that the banks can start lending money again.
And now we just heard from Jane King that if you defaulted on a mortgage with Fannie or FHA, for the next 7 years, they're not giving you another loan.
Yeah, and that's how it should be. If you have a bankruptcy in your past, you shouldn't be able to get a credit card the next week if you walk away from a home. And some people were doing what we call strategic defaults, where they were able to pay and they just said, no, it's better off for me to walk away and start a fresh deal. Well, they just don't want that to go on.
All right, let's take a look at the housing death spiral, how this all started. Unqualified buyers were given many, many loans between 05 and 06.
For sure, and then those buyers couldn't make the payments, so they became foreclosed properties 07 and to 09. And now the banks are holding all those properties and they're not lending money. So they're sitting on the properties when, in fact, if they did have the money to lend, they could perhaps solve their own problem.
When you say they don't have the money to lend, they don't have it, or they just don't want to give it to certain people?
It's a little bit of both. They're rebuilding their balance sheets. That's why you're getting no interest on your savings and checking right now, because banks are trying to get healthier on their balance sheets. Once their balance sheets match up on the ratios that are required by FDIC, then they're allowed to start making more loans. So it's kind of one begets the other. Get your balance sheet healthy, start lending money, and then you've got home buyers coming back into the marketplace. Then they start taking the foreclosed properties off the bank's balance sheet.
All right, so who will get approved for a loan these days? Do you have to have a high credit score and also a high down payment?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about 30% down, particularly on a commercial property, let's say. So the banks are looking for very good credit histories here, and it's just a tough road. And the best thing for this right now is time. Time just has to play out a little bit and let this work out.
But if you're in the market, it is your market for a home. Low interest rates. We just talked about the other day, I think yesterday, that record lows yet again for mortgage rates, 4.75%.
Yeah, this is a buyer's market like we've never seen. Unfortunately, there's not many buyers, so if there was, then the market wouldn't be so good. But, we've got home prices falling back to 200,000, which is where they were in 2003. So we basically retraced 7 years of prices, and there's 4 million homes for sale out there. So, if you are a buyer out there, pick your price and maybe drop it a little bit.
Okay, there you go. If you've got one of those great credit scores and 30% down, you too can have a new home or a condo. Good luck.